Michelle Obama complains about she's staying awake. There you go.
I wonder, what would you say has been the most hardest recent test of that fear? Because it's not one of those fears that you kind of get over and it just goes away. It kind of shows its head in many different ways, I imagine.
Well, in this current climate for me, it's, what's happening to immigrants. So it's not the fear for myself anymore. I drive around in a 4-car motorcade with a police escort. I'm Michelle Obama. I do still worry about my daughters in the world, even though they are somewhat recognizable. So my fears are for what I know is happening out there in streets all over the city. And now that we have leadership that is sort of indiscriminately determining who belongs and who doesn't.
So she's saying that illegal immigrants who do and don't belong. No illegal immigrant belongs. Her husband deported 3 million illegal immigrants. He was the deporter in chief. They was all happy about that when he done it. You know why? Because he was black. That is the only difference. Nothing else is different. Other than he was right for doing it because he was black and they're not white. And this is the logic of the left. It's okay if you do it as a black person. If you do it as a white person, you're racist.
And we know that those decisions aren't being made with courts and with due process. And
Courts did decide to do it, and it was with due process. The one that she's whinging about was turned down twice in court, was found to be a gang member of MS-13, was going to get deported anyway.
And, that it's being made like this cop that pulled my brother over when he was 12. You don't look like somebody that belongs.
Pulled her brother over when he was 12? What was her brother driving when he was 12?
I can determine just by looking at you that you're a good person or you're not a good person. And knowing that there's so much bias and so much racism and so much.
If you're driving at the age of 12, you're not a good person. I drove at 12. I'm not a good person. I'll admit it.
Ignorance that fuels those kind of choices. I worry for people of color all over this country. And I don't know that we will have the advocates to protect everybody. And that frightens me. It keeps me up at night. And I know.
So you think black people are always the victim, and that is the problem with the left. When a black person goes out and shoots another black person, they call it culture. When a black person goes out and kills a white person, it's reparations. When a white person kills a black person, it's racism. That's the mentality of the left.
Know that there are, and I see that when I'm driving around LA. I'm just looking in the faces of folks who could be victim, and I'm wondering, how are you feeling? How do you feel standing on the bus stop? How do you feel comfortable going to work, going to school, when you know that there could be people out here judging you and who could upend your life in a second?
You mean like the criminals, that the black community, where they go around, stab people, shoot people for their wallet, and that happens every day. It happens in white communities. But this is what people don't realise.
That's who I worry for right now.
I wonder.
So in other words, she's saying, I'm on my high horse. That's what I worry about. People get upset because they don't want to talk about the black gangs. They don't want to talk about the drug dealing. They don't want to talk about the black on black crime. They don't want to talk about 90% of all homicides by guns are on black people are of a black community, because that would devastate the narrative. If you don't like it, I honestly don't care. You can go and check these facts out on the FBI pages and that. We've sat there and looked through them. But people like Michelle Obama and the left, especially the Democratic Party, they have to play the victim because that's all they got. We've got them in the UK. They have to play the race beta victim because that's all they've got. That's their grind. And a lot of them have done good. They've earned millions out of it. But it just has to come a time when people go, no, that's a load of crap.